Most weekend side hustles are a sophisticated way to stay tired. The assumption that you can simply add income activity to a 40-hour work week without something breaking is not just optimistic, it's structurally incorrect. If you treat Saturday and Sunday like a second shift, you are not building financial momentum. You are selling the only recovery window your body and mind have left. That framing matters before we look at a single hustle on this list. The mistake most people make is chasing speed without examining the architecture of the work. Not all side hustles behave the same. Some pay you for your time. Some pay you for your skill. A smaller group pay you for the systems you build. And one category on this list looks like a shortcut, but quietly traps most people who attempt it. We'll get to that. If you're watching this, the picture is probably familiar. Full-time employment, limited weekday availability, and a genuine need to increase your monthly margins. Whether that's for a deposit, clearing high-interest debt, or building a buffer that actually means something, you don't need motivation. You need a framework that respects your energy, fits your current skill base, and doesn't put your primary income at risk in the process. Because here is something most side hustle content skips entirely. If the extra work drains you enough that your performance at your main job starts slipping, you haven't made money. You've increased your career risk. That trade is almost never worth it. The leverage framework. Before the list, the structure. Every hustle in this breakdown sits on one of three tiers, on T, and the tier determines how your effort actually converts into income. Tier 1 is time exchange. You show up, you work, you get paid. The barrier to entry is low, the differentiation is minimal, and the ceiling is fixed by how many hours you can physically give. Stop showing up, the income stops. Tier 2 is skill exchange. Your income is tied to a specific capability that not everyone has. The time to first results is longer, typically 2 to 6 weeks. But your rate increases as your reputation builds, and the work produces proof that reduces friction with every subsequent client. Tier 3 is system exchange. You build something once. It continues to generate returns after the weekend ends. The ramp time is the longest of the three, and it is heavily saturated. But it is the only tier where your weekend effort this month can still be producing income 6 months from now without additional hours. Keep this latter in mind as we move through the 7 options, because the hustle you pick matters less than whether it has the architecture to evolve into something that doesn't require you to trade every weekend indefinitely. Hustle 1. High-ticket mobile detailing. This is a Tier 1 play, but it is not standard car washing. This is precision interior and exterior restoration for higher-end vehicles delivered at the client's home or office. Setup difficulty is moderate. You need quality chemicals, a portable vacuum, a steamer, and a way to transport the kit. Startup cost sits between $300 and $600 for a proper setup. Skill requirement is medium. You need to understand paint safety and interior materials well enough to avoid damaging vehicles that cost more than most people's annual salary. Realistic income range runs from $150 to $400 per vehicle, depending on the package and the market you're operating in. Time to first client is typically 1 to 2 weeks if you target the right local platforms and position yourself with before and after documentation from the start. The leverage angle here is niche specificity. Do not compete as a generalist. Specialize in SUV interior restoration or luxury sedan paint correction or a specific premium brand. That positioning moves you out of direct price competition with every other person with a bucket and a sponge. It is still Tier 1. You are physically present every time. But the niche builds a reputation that reduces client acquisition friction over time, which is more than most Tier 1 plays can claim. Hustle 2. Specialized technical auditing. This is where the structure shifts. If you carry a professional skill, SEO, workflow optimization, financial systems, cybersecurity fundamentals, UX review, You do not have to sell hours of ongoing work. You can sell a weekend audit instead. The model is straightforward. A business owner or founder has a problem in your area of expertise that they have not had time to properly diagnose. You spend 4 to 5 hours on a Saturday morning examining their current setup and deliver a structured report with findings and prioritized recommendations. You are not managing anything. You are not on retainer. You deliver once, cleanly. Setup difficulty is low if your professional background already exists. You need a portfolio, a LinkedIn presence, and a documented process. Startup cost is near zero. Skill requirement is high. This only works if you are genuinely knowledgeable in the niche. Realistic income per audit ranges from $500 to $2,000, depending on the complexity of the work and the type of business you are serving. Time to first results is typically 2 to 4 weeks, primarily spent on positioning and outreach. This is Tier 2 because the income is tied to a skill, not a platform. And unlike most freelance arrangements, a completed audit is a contained deliverable. It does not bleed into your work week the way ongoing client management tends to. Hustle 3. Niche equipment rental. This one introduces a third type of leverage that most side hustle lists ignore entirely: capital leverage. The model involves purchasing a specific piece of utility equipment that people need for a day or a weekend, but have no reason to own. Industrial pressure washers, heavy-duty trailers, specialized event lighting rigs, or commercial-grade cleaning equipment are examples. You list the item on peer-to-peer rental marketplaces, and the asset does the work while you are not. Setup difficulty is low once the equipment is acquired. Skill requirement is minimal, primarily basic maintenance. Startup cost is the real barrier, sitting between $1,000 and $3,000 depending on the equipment category. Now, realistic income runs from $100 to $300 per rental weekend once you are consistently booked. Time to first results is immediate upon listing, assuming the niche has demand in your area. The energy profile of this model is what makes it distinctive. You drop off Friday evening, pick up Sunday night. Your Saturday is uninterrupted. For someone whose primary job runs at high cognitive intensity through the week, this is one of the few options that genuinely does not compete with your recovery. The risk is capital exposure up front and equipment condition management over time. That is a real consideration. But for someone who has startup capital and limited available bandwidth, this tier hybrid is worth serious evaluation. Hustle 4. B2B content. Repurposing. Many founders, executives, and consultants produce long-form content, podcasts, recorded presentations, interview footage, but have no reliable system for turning it into written material. LinkedIn posts, newsletters, email sequences, and short-form summaries all require a skill they either don't have or don't have time to apply. This is a Tier 2 play with a clean containment structure. You are not managing a social media account. You are not on retainer for unpredictable deliverables. You take existing content, extract the value, and redistribute it in formats the client can publish. Skill requirement is high. You need to understand both writing and the psychology of professional communication. What sounds authentic for a specific voice? What the audience of that platform responds to, and how to compress complex ideas without losing precision. Startup cost is zero. AI drafting tools reduce the production time per deliverable significantly once you understand the category, which means a single Saturday afternoon can realistically produce a month of content for one client. Realistic income ranges from $500 to $2,500 per month per client, depending on the volume and complexity of the output. Time to first results is 3 to 6 weeks, with the longest variable being direct outreach to the right type of business, rather than competing on low-rate bidding platforms. That last point matters. The reason most people fail at this specific hustle is not skill. It is acquisition strategy. Bidding platforms compress your rate before you ever deliver anything. The direct outreach to businesses whose founders are already producing content you can find publicly is the faster and more profitable path, where most weekend hustles quietly fail. Before the final three, this needs to be addressed directly. The failure mode most people don't anticipate is not running out of money or picking the wrong platform. It is context switching cost. If you spend Saturday managing a difficult client situation, you return to your primary job Monday, already running a deficit. The side hustle that looked like it was adding income is quietly eroding the professional edge that generates your main salary. That is a negative-sum trade that most people don't identify until the damage is already done. There is also platform dependency risk. If your income relies entirely on a single gig app, marketplace, or content platform, and a policy change, algorithm update, or account issue can interrupt your earnings without warning and without recourse. The direction of travel should always be from platform dependency toward skill dependency, from Tier 1 toward Tier 2, and eventually Tier 3. And there is the inconsistency of weekends themselves. Family obligations, illness, recovery needs, and unexpected disruptions mean that the reliable 2-day window you planned around is not as reliable in practice. Build that variability into your projections from the start, not as a footnote. Income follows leverage, not urgency. Every hour spent on a weekend should either convert to immediate cash or build an asset that reduces the amount of active work required in the future. If neither is true, the math does not work in your favor, regardless of what the hourly rate looks like on paper. Hustle 5. Micro SaaS Weekend Support. Small software companies frequently accumulate support tickets through the week that their core team cannot clear before Monday. They do not need a full-time hire. They need someone technically literate, reliable, and available for a defined block on Sunday. This is a Tier 2 to Tier 3 hybrid depending on how the arrangement is structured. The income is relatively stable. Once you are inside a company, client acquisition friction is low after the first placement, and the work does not require high physical or creative energy. Realistic income sits between $30 and $60 per hour. Skill requirement is medium. Technical literacy and clear written communication are the primary requirements. The difficulty is finding the right company, which typically requires direct outreach to small SaaS teams rather than waiting on job boards. The stability of this model, once established, is its main strength. You are not reacquiring clients every weekend. You are showing up to a consistent arrangement that leaves your Saturday largely untouched. Hustle 6. Digital template and asset creation. This is the only pure Tier 3 play on the list, and it needs to be positioned accurately. Notion templates, Excel financial trackers, specialized document frameworks, CAD blocks for specific professional applications, Canva systems for a defined niche. These are products you build once and sell repeatedly without additional hours. Startup cost is zero. The time investment is front-loaded and significant. Realistic time to first income is 6 to 12 weeks, assuming consistent effort. Income after that point is highly variable, anywhere from negligible to substantial, depending on niche selection, platform choice, and how precisely the product solves a problem that a specific professional audience already has and is already paying to solve. That last part is the filter. The reason most digital products underperform is generic positioning. The products that compound are built around specific professional problems the creator has already solved in their own work. If you have spent 3 years optimizing a workflow, financial model, or operational system at your day job, that expertise is the differentiation. Build the product around that, not around what looks popular on a marketplace homepage. None of this is not a starting point if you need income this month. It is a parallel track worth beginning once a Tier 1 or Tier 2 base is generating consistent returns. Hustle 7. Professional certification coaching. If you hold a certification that is genuinely difficult to attain, CPA, PMP, AWS Solutions, Architect, CFA, or similar, tutoring candidates through that specific exam is one of the highest value per hour options available to a working professional. The differentiation is built in. You are not competing with generalist tutors. You are offering something specific that the candidate cannot easily find and cannot easily replicate on their own. Setup difficulty is low. Nahamak, you need a structured approach to the material and a way for prospective students to find you. A LinkedIn presence and a few initial sessions to generate reviews are typically sufficient. Skill requirement is high by definition. Startup cost is near zero. Realistic income sits between $75 and $150 per hour, depending on the certification, the candidate's urgency, and how you structure your sessions. Demand is consistent because exam cycles repeat and new candidates enter the pipeline continuously. This is one of the cleanest Tier 2 plays available because the market already understands the value. The differentiation is inherent, and the work does not require client education before the engagement begins. We're choosing the right starting point. The selection decision comes down to 3 variables: your energy level after a typical work week, your existing skill base, and how much startup capital you have available. If your job runs at high physical intensity and you are consistently depleted by Friday evening, avoid any Tier 1 option that requires physical presence and output. Equipment rental or digital asset creation are the more appropriate directions. If your job runs at high cognitive intensity, but your body is relatively unaffected, Tier 1 physical services may actually function as a decompression activity. Know which category you fall into before you commit. If you have a specialized professional skill and zero startup capital, Tier 2 is your only viable path. Your expertise is your leverage. And the options in that tier, auditing, content repurposing, certification coaching, require nothing beyond what you already carry. If you have startup capital but limited available bandwidth, the equipment rental model deserves serious consideration. It is the only option on this list that can generate income on a weekend you are not actively working. The upgrade path runs in one direction. Use Tier 1 or Tier 2 income to stabilize your monthly margins first. Then use that foundation to begin building something in Tier 3 that gradually reduces your dependence on active time exchange. That is not a transformation. It is a structural adjustment made in increments. Every hour you spend on a weekend should either put cash in your pocket immediately or build something that reduces the work required in the future. If your side hustle requires 100% of your effort to produce 100% of the income every single time, you have purchased a part-time job, not built a system. The goal is optionality, not replacement, not escape. The ability over time to make decisions from a position of less financial pressure than you started from. Stability first, expansion second, and always in that order.